Hello everybody. It's nice to see we've got some familiar faces, or familiar names, should I say, we can't see the faces, on today's webinar. So welcome to this week's webinar. It's all about goals and setting the best goals we can to give us the best chance of getting exactly what we want. So before we get started, can you all just give me a quick hands up? Okay, so that means, for those of you who are not familiar, along the bottom of the screen, there's a hands up button. And if you can all give us a hands up, then we can see who can understand the system, who can see what we're doing. It could actually mean that some people are on the phone and they can't find the button, but that's most people, so that's a good sign. This is a great way for you to interact with us. If we ask you questions, you can put your hands up to acknowledge us. Also, if you also look along the bottom, there's the question and answer box and chat box as well there. So we're going to be using those, and we'll get your input as we go along. So my name's Kerry Molster, and I, along with Angela, who I'm going to introduce you to in a moment, I'm a senior partner with Action Coach, and I'm based basically across the Vale of Belvoir, so Grantham, Melton, Bingham type direction. I'm based in Melton Mowbray. So our job is to help business owners to get the business that they actually really want. And during this time right now, we've been helping business owners navigate through this strange new land that we've found ourselves in. And we've been doing it by holding a series of weekly webinars and also clearing space in our calendars to make way for some pro bono coaching sessions. So I'm going to hand you over to Angela, who's going to introduce herself and talk to you. And then I'm going to come back to you in a while. Okay, Angela.
Hello, and thank you very much, Kerry. So these are unprecedented times, and we are helping business owners to find their way through the challenges and opportunities provided by this strange new economic landscape. This series of webinars is aimed at providing a pathway through. So once you have made sure that everybody is safe, the next thing to do is to revisit your goals. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be looking at why we set goals. We'll be looking ahead at the different types of goals, what SMART goals really mean. We're also going to have a little diversion into the mind of a procrastinator and look at how we can set a realistic goal for those who are in procrastination. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. We are going to explore the power of why. And then we're going to look at the pivot and why your goals should change and well. So why do we set goals? Could I just ask you, in which areas of your life are you setting goals at the moment? It doesn't have to be business. It could be any area of your life, because these principles are universal over your whole life. So if you'd like to just have a little look, type into the question box where you are setting goals. I'll just give you a second to do that.
And you have to participate.
Yeah, one of our Action Coach principles is 100% participation, which means that everything you do, you give 100% to. So if you could just type in, if you're not setting any goals, that's what we will
then just type in that you're not doing any. So we've got personal goals, business goals. Someone is saying where they're going to live when lockdown finishes, which is an interesting one. Someone else is saying what kind of business they're going to have when they finish this. Someone else is looking at exit plans. Goals to get the house sorted before the baby arrives, and goals to get the staff up to standard before maternity. Now that sounds a really interesting goal. Yeah. So quite different things. Someone else is saving for a mortgage.
Okay, great. So you're all used to setting goals, but in Action Coach, we actually have 3 main reasons why we set goals. The first of these is to give us direction and focus in our lives. We are then giving movement and momentum. And the last one is it's going to shape the person we become. So if we look at all of those separately, Direction and focus. So I'm based in Oakham, and if I wanted to go to London, I would get on either the A1 or the M1. If, however, I wanted to go over to Birmingham, I would get on the A14. And it's very important that I get on the right road to go to the right place that I want to go. So when we have a goal that is clear, it actually sets the direction of travel. So we then know where we are going to end up. If I just got on any old road I fancied, I could end up in Edinburgh for all I know.
Angela,
So it's
can I
important.
just get you to adjust your microphone? It's sounding a bit windy.
Is that better?
Keep
Is
going.
that better, Kerry?
Yeah, that's better. Second one.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kerry. Yes. So how?
It's still,
No?
still a bit wobbly. I don't know. I've
Is
not
that,
heard it like this before.
no. Is that better? Am I working now?
Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're putting a lot of strain on our technology at the moment, so I apologise if the sound gets too much. Please raise your hand and let Kerry know, and she'll shout at me. So we set the direction of travel where we want to go, and it is very important that we actually know where we want to go, that we don't end up in the wrong place where we're going. So the second part, actually, I just wanted to share a little story from Alice in Wonderland, which just illustrates this a little bit. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to go to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. But if you did know where you wanted to go, it would matter. So that's the first part. It sets our direction of travel. The second reason we set goals is because it activates a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which is part of the brain which filters information. We are bombarded every single second of the day with lots and lots of information from what we're hearing and what we're seeing. And it's very important that actually we filter some of that out, because if we took in everything, we would probably go mad. There'd be too much for us to cope with. So our RAS sets the filters something. So we set our RAS to look at something, and it will filter just that information out. So what I'd like you to do just for a moment is to look around the area that you're sat in while you're listening to this, and count the number of blue things that you can see in the room. Great, has everybody got a number? Okay, so I'd like you now to close your eyes and tell me how many red things there are in the room. You probably don't know, and you probably didn't even see them. So if you open your eyes now and look round the room, you will see lots of red things, but you will probably also be noticing the blue things that you noticed earlier. And that's because your RAS has now been set to filter out the blue and the red, and you will see those. So you'll be able to focus on things. And why this is important, what happens when we set goals is that it activates our RAS to look out for the opportunities to fulfill those goals. I'm sure a lot of you have had the experience where you have bought yourself, or you've been thinking of buying yourself a new car, and you've decided what you're going to buy, and then you go out on the road and everywhere you look is red Jeeps, if that's what you've got. Or, you know, and you've never noticed them before. And it's not that they weren't on the road before. It's not that everybody suddenly decided because you bought a red Jeep that they're going to buy a red Jeep. It's just because you just didn't notice them before, because you hadn't set your mind. So these are the first two areas of why we set goals. It provides us with direction, and it allows us to focus on getting our goals. The second reason we set goals is to do with movement and momentum. Einstein said nothing happens until something moves. Now, he was talking on a molecular level, but actually life is movement. And it is very important that we actually, in order for something to happen, we move. If we sat in our chair at home and did nothing, or we're all sitting in our chairs at home at the moment, but if we didn't do anything but just sat there, we would get nothing done. We actually have to move first in order to move on and move on and get something done. So that's our first thing. And the second is that once you've started on your goals, then momentum will build automatically. I mean, we've had this wonderful example recently of Captain Tom, who had set a goal for raising £1,000 by the time of his 100th birthday, which is next week. And that was his goal. And so he started on getting that raising. And it was very apparent that as soon as he had started, it actually took on a life of its own, and the momentum built and built and built. And he started, well, when I wrote these slides, he was up to 27 million, which is absolutely phenomenal achievement. But it all started because he had a goal to reach that first 1,000, and the momentum built. And the third reason was it shapes the person we become. We have this formula in Action Coach. Some of you might have seen it and be familiar with it. Be times do equals have, which means that in order to have the things that we want, we need to do the things that we need to do. And in order to do the things that we need to do, we need to become something other than what we are at the moment. If we took the be out and just had do equals have, all we'd be saying is that these aren't really goals, they're just items on our to-do list. So when we set a goal for something in the future, we usually have to become something more than what we are now in order to be able to do the things we need to do to have the things that we want to have. So, for example, if you want to become a better leader, it may be that you have to become better at communicating, at making decisions, at delegating, and you are gaining the skills required, and you are becoming somebody that you weren't yesterday. And that's what we want for all of you. What we want for all of you is for you to grow and not to be the same person as you was yesterday. That's not good English. I was reading a quote from Alice in Wonderland in which she just says, I wasn't the same person as I was yesterday. So what we want from all of you is this growth to become somebody more than you are now. And the reason this works is that most of us are not operating at the level of our potential. So our performance, what we're actually doing, is not yet at the level of which we could do. So what we're doing, and when we're setting our goals, is we are gradually setting the goal to move to the next level. So the first goal gets a little bit there, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and eventually we will reach what we thought of as our potential. But this isn't a glass ceiling. When you get there, it will continue. Your zone, your potential zone has grown, and you will grow and go over that what you think is possible now. Great. Okay, so just before we check in with everybody, I just want to talk about different types of goals that we've got. What we're talking about when we're trying to set our goals is the life you choose to live. So it is important that you think about this holistically, not just in this is my business, this is my personal life, This is my family, lots of different goals, differently spread out all over the place, but that actually we're looking holistically at what we want to do. We quite often, in order to choose our life, we will be looking ahead, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, to what our ideal life would be at that stage. And then we might have some intermittent goals that we want to achieve, some 5-year goals, some 3-year goals, and then we have the things that we want to do fairly imminently in this 1 year. And in Action Coach, we will then break that down into 90-day goals and daily goals. And if you're working with us, you will be very familiar with that concept. But what you can see on screen here is a little bit of a scattergun approach. So you've got a few of the year 1 goals over here that actually are not contributing at all to the goals going on to our life. So we might be doing something that actually doesn't bring us anywhere forward to our perfect life in 10 years' time. So what we aim to do and what we will be doing on the workshop that we're doing on Tuesday is to try and make sure that these goals are aligned, so that your 1-year goals that you have are actually helping you to move into your 3-year goals and your 5-year goals, and then in your 10-year goals. So you have a lot less work to do to get to the life you choose. And just finally, before I check in on everybody, we're going to look at SMART goals. Now, everybody has heard this acronym. If you've done any sort of education or looking at goal setting, you will have heard of SMART goals, which generally stands for specific, measurable, achievable results and time framed. So it doesn't really matter what those things stand for, but what you've got to remember is that actually you need to describe your goal fully. You need to be able to see it, smell it, taste it, and really, really want it. So be very, very specific about what you want. Just saying, I want more life, I want more money, isn't going to set anything off, because your brain doesn't understand that concept of more. So what you need to say is, I want my turnover to increase to 20 million by this date. And this is how I'm going to measure it. This is how I'm going to know that it's going to happen. Achievable, it needs to be something that is possible for you. Now, if I had a goal to go to the moon, now that really wouldn't be achievable for me. It's not something I want to do anyway, but it would not be achievable for me. But Elon Musk really does believe that this is an achievable goal. It's one of his goals, and he thinks it's achievable. So it's all very personal. Anyway, whatever you decide you're going to achieve. I couldn't run a marathon, but I know there's people on this call who probably could. So we have our results. We have to make sure that we know exactly what they mean, and what they're going to look like. How you will know when you achieved it, and when you get there, what will it look like, and how are you going to stay on track to get it. And the last thing I would like to say is that I would like all your goals to be SMARTy goals, because I would like the last thing on that list for you to know how you're going to reward yourself when you get there. And so if you get to your 20 million, what's that going to look like? If your goal is to run a marathon, then what were you going to say? What were you going to give yourself when you've actually crossed that line? Unfortunately, the London Marathon has been cancelled this weekend. But if you were going to run a marathon, what I would expect you, if that was your goal, is you would be saying, I'm going to run the London Marathon, and I'm going to run it in 2021 or 2022. I'm going to run it in this time, and this is what I'm going to reward myself for it. And you will be looking and thinking about how you're going to feel when you cross the line at that stage. And this is something that when we do the workshop on Tuesday, we will be looking at, and to see that when you're writing your goals, that they are actually SMART goals. So before we go into procrastination, Kerry, how are we looking? How are we doing?
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So just a quick recap. We've looked at direction and movement, as well as what we call be, do, have. So basically, who do you need to be to make the changes to get to the right goals and to have achieved them? Okay, so let's just see how you're getting on. In the chat box, I'd like you to do is to write down just one word. You can write more if you want, but one's enough. And let us know what you have to change. So who do you need to become to be able to do what you need to do and to have what you want to have? So Angela's talking about leadership. You might need to change some of your behaviors if you want to become a good leader. If you want to have good systems and processes and get your business running like clockwork, you'll need to work on your organization. You need to change the person that you are. So can you just again, we want some participation. Can you please type in what you think you could change? Who do you need to become to reach the goals that you've been thinking about?
Great. Kerry, while they're doing that, how's the sound been for the last 10 minutes?
It's got much better.
Okay, great.
Better. So some people need knowledge. Nick Brooks is just rubbing it in because he's retired. I think you don't know how many times you can rub that in. So time management, focus, lots of different things, leadership skills, a variety. Yeah, focus is so important for many people, and hopefully the focus will come with the goals, because that's absolutely essential. So what else have we got? Searching for your confidence. Yeah. Leadership, confidence and focus seems to be the biggest ones on these boxes. Okay, then let's also talking about we're talking about 1, 3, 5, 10-year goals. So what I'd like to think about now is what it would mean to you to complete your goal. You might not have actually sorted the details out yet or really thought it through. And what Angela's been talking about is how, you know, it's essential that you really go into those details. How's it going to smell, taste, see, imagine yourself in there. But I want you to now just imagine that you're at the end of it. So how would it feel if you achieved this goal that you've been thinking about? So what would it mean to you? Can I get you to pop that in the box? The reason we do this is to really get you actually imagining and picturing yourself doing this, because we find that the more you do that, the more realistic the goal is and the easier it is to achieve. Okay, so we've got relief, independence, yes, security, absolutely, freedom, yeah. Again, they're all kind of similar type themes coming through. So the ability to not be stressed and to know where you're going, and for life to be a bit easier. Okay, thank you. Got something in the question and answer. Yeah, more security. Yeah, okay, thank you very much then. Shall we move on then, Angela?
Okay, thank you very much. So one of the things that we were talking about was focus. And what we are seeing at the moment is that we have quite a lot of our clients are not moving forward and not getting on with what they want to do. So just think how many of you have actually set goals that you want to achieve and then done nothing to make them happen, or to get caught up in daily life, letting your dreams and goals slide. It's really easy to do, and even easier to do at the moment in this time of uncertainty, because there's so many other things to take our focus, our attention, and to distract us as well. So this this next couple of slides, if you're not a procrastinator, this doesn't apply to you. You may not really understand what I'm talking about here, but if you could just bear with us for the next a couple of minutes, because it really is something that quite a lot of people are finding resonates with them at the moment. So this comes from a TED talk given by Tim Urban of Wait But Why, and it's helped quite a few people that we've been speaking to. So Tim says that in your brain there are 3 different things. The first person that he talks about is your rational decision maker. That's the person that's in charge. He makes all the decisions rationally, and you have a very calm life, and you move on. But also, you also have what he calls the instant gratification monkey. And this monkey could be very well behaved, and he could only play when he's allowed to, or he could actually start taking control and deciding to take control of what you're doing. So the rational decision maker is pushed out the way, and the monkey is in charge. And the monkey is only interested in, as it says, instant gratification, things that mean something now. He's not interested in long-term gain. It's all about short-term gains. It's about having that chocolate now rather than the carrot and the slim body later. It's all about enjoying talking to friends and watching cat videos on Facebook rather than getting down and doing some work. So if the instant gratification monkey is allowed to take control of your brain, then you'll end up doing a lot of procrastinating. You'll end up doing a lot of stuff that you really wonder why you did it, and you'll get to the end of the day thinking, what on earth have I done all day? Now, the instant gratification is afraid of the third person in the brain, and the third thing in the brain is called the panic monster. And the panic monster only wakes up when there's a deadline around. So as soon as there's a deadline looming, the panic monster wakes up, scares the monkey runs up the tree, and the rational decision maker is then allowed to take the charge. But by then we are in a very much of a panic situation, and he has got to do something to get out of this situation. Get out and get the deadline done, whatever it is, to reach the deadline. So in a normal person's rational decision maker is in charge, their life is very ordered. They make small steps to get to their goals. They've planned it all in advance. They've sharpened their saw. They know what they're doing, and they just get on with it, and it all rolls very nicely. Now, my husband is actually, his chimp is very well under control. So his life looks like this quite a lot of the time until I come along and cause a little bit of panic once in a while. If your instant gratification monkey is in charge, you actually do nothing towards this goal until the deadline looms, at which point the panic monster wakes up and the monkey goes up the tree, and the rational decision maker ends up working, pulling all-nighters, doing whatever it takes to produce probably a substandard piece of work. So we've got to work out how we can, if this is resonating with you, then we've got to work out how we can actually tame our monkey. Now, one way we can tame our monkey is by using the monster, the panic monster, to do it. And we have had clients who are very much in this situation where they are using their panic monster to get anything done in their life. So what they will do is they will lurch from crisis to crisis, from panic to panic, getting things done just by the skin of their teeth. And I'm sure you all know people who are like that, even if it's not you. And if you have a big deadline that you need to reach, you can actually tame your monkey a little bit by waking the panic monster up at regular intervals. But this does mean that you are lurching from inertia to full-scale panic throughout the whole project, or whatever it is, and sometimes throughout your whole life. It's not a very good place to be. It's a very stressful environment in which to work. So there has to be a better way of doing it. And I will come on to that in a minute. And the reason this is vital is something called the Eisenhower matrix, which quite a lot of people are familiar with, and a lot of people have been reintroduced to this via Stephen Covey. And it's really to do with time management and about how you spend your time. So quadrant 1 is for important and urgent things. Quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. Quadrant 3 is for urgent but not important. And quadrant 4 is for those things that are not important and not urgent. Now, the instant gratification monkey lives here in quadrant 4, the dark playground. It's full of those great things that really give us a very quick instant buzz, but actually are not important and not urgent. But that's, that's the thing that the monkey loves. The panic monster lives here in quadrant 1, and in fact doesn't actually go anywhere else. It's only there for things that are important and urgent. So if you are relying on your panic monster to tame your monkey, you will be lurching from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, sometimes going through quadrant 3, but never ever going through quadrant 2, because your panic monster will not be there at all. And it's in quadrant 2 that those important but not urgent jobs, which actually move our lives on to the next phase and make our businesses better and our lives better. It's those things like concentrating on planning your marketing, on communicating to your staff, on team building, all of those great things that make a leader reside in quadrant 2. So if you're using your panic monster to control your monkey, you actually never get any of that done. So there is a better way, and we will come on to that in a moment. But Kerry, I just think we just should, I should shut up for a minute and see how people are relating to this vision of procrastination. Have we got anything in the chat box, Kerry? Oh, I seem to have lost Kerry. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realise that I'd put myself on mute, so I've just had a bit of a chat with myself. Okay, so nothing in the chat box yet. I was just telling myself that before we come on to that, I just wanted to give an example about myself. So I used to live with the panic monster, and I didn't actually see any issue with that at all. That was just the way I lived my life. And it's only when I started to explore coaching that I realised that I had to change that behaviour, because I would actually use the panic monster as a performance enhancing drug, basically. And I knew that as long as I had that panic monster, that I could perform really at a really high level. And that was how I got through my career, until I obviously worked for myself. When I got my own business, it all changed. But in corporate world, it seems to work quite well. But the raised cortisol levels on a regular basis really hurts your body and leads to all kinds of damage. So clearly it's bad for your health. But I can see why people do that, and it is quite a normal thing until people are able to take a step back and really look at how that impacts on your health. So I've got another example as well of a client of mine who was so upset when I met him at a networking event. He'd been running his own business for about a year. He came from a corporate background and was very high level and very professional. And he just couldn't understand why he wasn't able to make his business work. He'd been very successful. He'd been in charge of £1 million budgets and was managing 150 people. But when he'd come down to working to himself, he wanted to plan to build his business, but he wasn't able to do it. He just couldn't. He was constantly going from monkey to monster, and he just could not get himself organized until we did some work on this, and he was able to realize that the reason he'd been successful before was because of the goals, but also for the actual accountability. So once he'd got his goals, he was then being held accountable. So it's, I can't sort of express really how important having that goal first is, so that you can actually be held accountable, because he was used to being held accountable by a variety of people, and he just wasn't able to do that. So back to you guys with procrastination. You probably procrastinate on many things. However, I'd say there's going to be at least one that that you always procrastinate on, because it's the thing that you're probably least good at, the thing that annoys you, and the thing that brings your monkey out the most. So let's just have some feedback from you guys. in the chat box or the question answer box. It makes no difference to me which one comes through. Just tell me, what is it that you procrastinate over? So finance, I have one, doing cash flow forecasts. And marketing. Direct communications, that's interesting. I'm not really sure what that means. Maybe find out. Yes, conflict. I was just going to say maybe that's what it means. So for many people, if you have to pull somebody up on their behavior, probably be the last thing you do that day. So again, more marketing, social media, admin, conflict. Yeah. Somebody else is saying speaking to people they don't like. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, quite a few different examples there, but I don't think there's anybody that's going to say they don't procrastinate, but I do think we very much have different levels, and some people experience it on quite a different level to others. Okay, Angela.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's very much being aware of your monkey. If you know your monkey is the one making the decisions, then you can start taking action and take the control away from your monkey. So that's a really interesting. And Professor Steve Peters talked about the monkey in his book, The Chimp Paradox, and he actually says to give your monkey a name so that then you can actually have conversation with him. So okay, so the real the number one way to make sure that your goals are fulfilled and that you don't procrastinate and you don't get lost along the way is to actually understand why you want that goal. The quote on the screen comes from somebody who was actually trapped in Nazi concentration camps, and he decided when he was there, he found out that it wasn't the strongest or the fittest that survived those awful, awful conditions, but it was those people who had a reason to live. So he who has a why to live can bear any how. So if you really understand the reason why you want your goal, then you can do anything to get there. And it will be so important that you will get there. And some of the reasons that we've got, these come from Jim Rohn, sorry. He has 4 main reasons for why you want a goal. And some of these may you may resonate with some and not with others. But the first is recognition. You want to be recognized by your peer group for whatever it is, whether that's as a successful businessman, as a fantastic coach, as a great athlete, whatever it is that is there, that's what you want to be recognized for. You may have the feeling, you start getting addicted to feelings. Now, I've never won a race, but I have children who have, and they tell me that there is nothing quite like that feeling of being on the top step. Being on the second or third step, while it's great to be on the podium, has got nothing on being on that top step. So you get to like the feeling of being a winner, and therefore you get a bit addicted to it. So the reason to want to win the next race is because you loved being on the top step. Family are big motivators, a big reason why people want to do things. We do things for our family and for the people we love that we wouldn't do for any other people. And I think at the moment where we're all with our family, I think we're sort of starting to reconnect with what our family is like. So family is big. One of our clients actually had one of his goals was to take his children to Disneyland if he reached a certain level in his business. And because he told his children that that's what he wanted to do, he was then ultra motivated to make sure that happened because he didn't want to let his family down. So family can be a big motivator. And benevolence is another one. Captain Tom didn't actually want to walk round the garden. We probably did want to walk round the garden, but he didn't have that goal to walk round the garden just for the sake of it. He wanted to give something back to the NHS, and the walking was just the way to do it. The goal was to raise £1,000. So for him, it was very much a benevolence thing, and I think some people can really relate to that. We'll jump out of planes and we'll run marathons because we want to give something back to the charity that we're passionate about. And then nitty-gritty reasons. Now, nitty-gritty reasons are those things that you may be a little ashamed of. So they're things like anger or humiliation. Somebody might have told you you'll never amount to much, and you are desperate to prove them wrong. Really angry that they said that, and you really want to make sure that they eat their words and that they can see that you have succeeded. And humiliation, you may have been, really upset that you couldn't do something at some stage, and everybody knew that you didn't have enough money to buy your children's shoes or to buy cookies for the Girl Scouts or whatever it was, and you never want to be in that situation again. So those are your nitty-gritty reasons. You may be a little ashamed of them, but they're actually very powerful. So what we talked about being smart, goals being smart, but what they also need to be is dumb. So your goals need to be both smart and dumb. And as you can see on the screen, dumb is dream-led, uplifting, meaningful, and will change behavior. So I think it's really important that we drill down into our why. Why do we want a goal? And you've got to just keep going. Why do I want that? Don't just stop at the first answer. Why is that important to me? Why? You end up sounding a little bit like a 2-year-old asking why, mummy. But you can get down to the actual nitty gritty. To when you're just sitting there saying, just because. And at that point, you realize that's come deep enough. Quite often, that's when the emotion is triggered and you really can see why you want that goal. And so if you get to that stage where you really know why you want that goal, then you have tamed your monkey or your chimp, and you will be able to drag all of those things that are holding you back will no longer be holding you back because you have your why. Okay, Kerry, how are we doing? Is everybody still with us?
Yep, all good so far. I've just thought of an example that I'd like to share. I know a client who was struggling with long-term goals, or really the motivation for those long-term goals. So he'd been talking about, for a while, he's got pictures. He'd made one of those mood boards that people do. I've forgotten the name of it. His goal board. And he'd got pictures of a car, he'd got pictures of holidays and a nice house. So his focus was very much on these things, but he just wasn't motivated to achieve them. So after work with him, lots of questions, trying to work out what the issue was. It turns out that he only actually wanted these items because he wanted to do those with his family. So in reality, the goal wasn't the items, it wasn't a materialistic goal. It was actually, his motivation was about spending time with his family and having different kinds of experiences with his family. So that completely changed his motivation and where he was going in relation to why he was looking at those goals and why he wanted to achieve them. So as soon as he's able to change that, his head changed, his focus changed, and that he was able to then really get focused and get clarity on what he wanted to do and how he was then going to do it. So in relation to that, I'd like you to just to think about anything that you need to change about your goals. Do you know why you want to achieve your goals? If you know and you're very clear on that, I'd like you to put that into the box. If you're not sure, and this is something that's just made you think about that, what is your why? Why do you want to achieve it? And then you can just pop that in the box.
Yes, thank you, Kerry. And this is something that if
Vision
people do
board. Thank you, Sarah.
vision board,
It's a word I know
yes.
so well that I hadn't even thought about. It just wouldn't come out.
If you are on our workshop on Tuesday when we'll be going through this for you, then this is something we will be drilling down into. We will be definitely trying to get to the actual base why of what it is all about.
Okay, so we've got one why is for a comfortable retirement. Another why is for the kids. They're doing whatever it is they want to do. They're doing it for the children. Somebody else is looking at money. Okay, so yeah, could be that you want more money, but why do you want that money? What is it that you want to do with that money? What do you think you're going to get at the end if you have that money? What is it going to achieve? What else have we got? A more comfortable lifestyle for the entire family. So that could maybe be security. So yes, and into retirement. What's an FF? To have an FF? I'm not sure what that means. Anyone?
Financial freedom, maybe.
Ah, yes. Okay, never heard of. Yes, FF. Again, somebody else for kids. There's a family theme running through. Not everyone's got kids, but yeah, security, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great, thank you. So the last item that we're going to cover today is about change and how that will affect your goals. So I don't know if any of you have watched the film Up, which is a lovely film about an old man who attaches balloons to his house and floats away from his life. And there he meets a dog called Doug. Now, Doug is obsessed with squirrels. He's perfectly happy going along, talking to anybody, involved in whatever is going on. But as soon as he sees a squirrel, is off, squirrel, and that's it, gone. And it's a doggy thing, I guess. But you may have seen it or heard it as being shiny object syndrome. So you're walking along and you're very happy with doing whatever you're doing to get to one goal, and there's a shining object off to your right, and you think, yep, I am having that, and there you're off there. And then there's another shining object, and you end up weaving your way through life from one shiny object to another shiny object. Now, what I would say to you is that if you have covered the previous, gone through the previous ways of setting your goals, this won't be a problem to you. You will have your SPARK goals, you will have your DUM goals, and you will know why you're wanting to have those things. That will be so crystal clear in you that you will not actually see the shiny objects that are coming along the road being thrown at you. And this is something I use with my clients. It's to do with having a shining star that will get you out of bed every morning, that will actually direct you to where you want to go. And that shining star, if that is luminous enough for you, you won't actually see any of the shining objects on your path, because you will really know what the life you want to live looks like, and you will be following that shining star. Now, we are all made up of different things. People see on the outside, they see the results that we achieve, and they can see that that is a direct result of our actions, the decisions we make, the behavior we have. You can see that this is an American slide. So you can see that is who we are. But also beyond that, there's the things that are not quite so visible. There's the skills we have, whether that's technical skills. I'm an accountant, so I have got my professional qualifications, but there are also other skills like communication and marketing and leadership. They're all skills, and we've been having to learn a lot of skills recently in the current crisis. I mean, we have learned how to use Zoom for the first time. So in the couple of weeks that we've been using Zoom, we have upskilled a little bit there. We have our beliefs, the things that we currently hold to be true. We have our values, And I think the lockdown situation has meant that people are looking at their values sometimes, and we are finding that actually community and family and support and being there for people is really important value for quite a lot of things. So our values are there, but they are also changing. And then lastly, the least likely to change is our identity. That's who we are at fundamental core of ourselves. And that does change, but it doesn't change readily. So it may change, for example, if you've had a new baby, you're suddenly now a parent for the first time. So you can see yourself as a parent. I know that there's somebody on this call who may well identify with a shift that's going to be coming along later on in the year for them. So if your identity changes, then your 10-year goals may change. You may decide that actually, because you're now a parent, the things you wanted when you were free and single, they're no longer important to you. So your 10-year goals, your vision of the life you choose has changed. Then other some more quicker goals to have, they're more likely to change as things change around us. In the current environment that we are in, my 10-year goal and my 5-year goal has not changed. I still know what life I want to be living in 10 and 5 years' time. I have very clear on that, and that hasn't changed. But some of my 3-year goals have changed, and my 1-year goals have changed, and certainly my 90-day goals have changed, because I have found that the way that I was going to get to those goals has changed, and I've had to find other goals that will get me to my 10-year goals eventually. So what I'm doing is I'm pivoting and I'm changing my goals so that my short-term goals, so that I actually do get to my 10-year goals. And it's yes, things change, but we are getting back to having an alignment, to looking again. When things change in your environment, look back to your 10-year goal. Has that changed? Look back to your 5-year goals. Is that changing? And your 3-year goals and your 1-year goals. Your immediate goals are likely to change, because when we went into lockdown, my immediate goal was, let's survive this. My next goal was, let's get out of this stronger and fitter. So those goals change. But the more short-term goals are likely to change, but the longer-term goals aren't. So when you are looking at changing those short-term goals, make sure they're still aligned. Ever so nicely in this beautiful circular diagram you can see on screen. That is about it. I think it's very important that we think about our goals in a time of change. And if you want any help with your goal setting, we are doing the webinar next week, the workshop next week on Tuesday, or talk to either of us about coaching. Kerry will tell you a little bit more about that later. So welcome to the life you choose. Kerry, over and out.
Yeah, okay. So yes, on Tuesday we have another webinar that we're going to be running, and it's free. We're not doing this one to lure you in and then charge you for something. Again, it's free. We're looking more in depth about how you're going to use those goals to take you to where you want to get to. And we both mentioned as well, we're also doing coaching, pro bono coaching for anybody that wants to talk through their business right now. It's a very difficult time. I don't like to use the word unprecedented because it seems to be the most overly used word at the moment. But yeah, we really just want to help people as much as we can. So please get in touch. We will send you an email after this anyway, just to check in with you. Also going to ask you to do a feedback form for us. I have just sent it to you in the chat box. If you could just click on that, and it's a very quick couple of clicking buttons just to give us some feedback so we know if we're going along in the right direction, and that would be really useful. Thank you very much. Angela. We lost her.
Sorry, I muted myself while you were talking, and then
You did a
was
Kerry
looking in the
on
chat.
yourself.
I did. I was looking in the chat box, and I didn't actually find my button to press to mute. So yes, as Kerry says, we do have our workshop tomorrow. We look forward Tuesday. We do look forward to seeing you. We will send a link out. This is only one in a series of webinars that we are doing to allow you to navigate your way through where we are now and come out stronger and fitter in your businesses. So we are doing next Thursday, we'll be doing another webinar on understanding cycles in business. The week after that, our theme will be exiting lockdown, and the week after that, our theme will be leadership at a time of change. So please join us on as many of those as you would like to. How are we doing, Kerry?
Yeah, the link is not clicking through. Fantastic. All that preparation for nothing. Okay, I will try and, oh, it's clicking through when I click it, which doesn't really help. Oh, it's working for people. Okay, I will send, if it's not working for you, please tell me and I'll send it to you directly now.
Oh, and Alex is saying if you just cut and paste it, it works that way. So maybe that's the way to go.
So if it doesn't work, please cut and paste. And if not, let me know and I'll send it. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, have a very good weekend, everybody, and we will see you on Tuesday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.